What's going on, guys? I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and welcome to my first ever AEW Collision review right here on the channel for June 24th, 2023. I hope you guys are doing well and enjoying your weekend ahead of Forbidden Door tonight. Trying to get this up as quickly as possible before the pay-per-view. We had a couple things happen on the show that have to do with the pay-per-view tonight. I did not do a Collision review last week, not because I didn't want to, just because it was a Father's Day weekend. I was with family, so I didn't have a chance to review the show. I don't know if this will be a weekly recurring thing each week here on the channel. I just thought it was fair because I don't review SmackDown on WrestleRant Radio weekly because we do the show on Thursdays. SmackDown airs on Fridays. Not really much of a chance to review the show. I never really reviewed Rampage. It was never important enough to review it. Collision seems like it will be an important show. So far, I've really liked the show. We're only 2 episodes in, and primarily that's due to the pacing. I said this on Twitter earlier today. I know I'm speaking way too fucking soon. Not to shit on other shows right now, but Collision might be my favorite show to watch weekly at this point. It's just got better pacing than Dynamite. I think I like just the stars featured more than what we get on Dynamite typically. So far they feature the same faces in the last couple of weeks. Powerhouse Hobbs, Andrade, Punk, FTR, Jay White. I'm a fan of all those guys for the most part, so I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with those guys going forward. Christian Cage being another one. Luchasaurus, don't really give a shit about at this point, but the TNT title seems like it might be a fixture on this show compared to Dynamite. So I just like the pacing. It's 2 hours. It feels important. It just has a different vibe so far than Dynamite. I like the set. I like the intro. I like the commentator team. I like where they're positioned. Even small things like that, even where they're positioned by ringside, is different than Dynamite. It's shorter than Raw. It's more eventful than SmackDown. SmackDown I like a lot, and, SmackDown I'm probably more favorable toward than most people. But it's even then, that's a hit or miss show most weeks. And like I said, I think it's only fair because I don't have a chance to talk about SmackDown and WrestleRant Radio. Each week in the show, we break down Raw primarily, and usually Dynamite, we give quick thoughts on the show. By the time we do that show, Collision is 5 days old. It's probably after a pay-per-view. I don't typically have time to talk about it by that point. We already talk about enough on the show as it is. So I thought, listen, if we review SmackDown weekly here on the channel on Saturdays, why not take some time out of the day on Sundays, although I record a lot as it is, to talk about Collision? Again, I'm not sold on this being a weekly thing, so don't, expect this weekly, but just for now, I thought I would talk about Collision because I thought this was another really good show. They opened up the episode on Saturday night with Sting and Darby Allin announcing their opponent, or rather their partner for tonight, against Chris Jericho, Minoru Suzuki, and Sammy Guevara, the same trio that competed at last year's event and won. Their partner is none other than, as expected, Tetsuya Naito from New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, Darby did say on Wednesday's Dynamite that their partner would be someone that knows Jericho well. He's made a lot of rivals over the years, specifically in New Japan. Jericho didn't have that many matches in New Japan, and of the people he faced over there, Tanahashi, Omega, and Okada, they all have their other matches already set up for this pay-per-view coming up tonight. Omega's facing Danielson, Tanahashi's facing MJF, and who is it? Omega's facing Will Ospreay. So that doesn't really leave many people left, unless it was Evil, who I don't give a fuck about at all. Naito was the only person of those few that he's faced in New Japan that did not have a match on the show. So it made sense for Naito to be the partner. This was a pretty logical segment. I don't love shows kicking off with promo, specifically the second week of Dynamite, or rather Collision. I would have rather just the show kicked off with a match. Granted, last week's show also kicked off with a promo. Punk addressed the audience, but that just kind of made sense. This kind of felt like a Dynamite segment, but it was still logical. The crowd was into it. They were behind Naito. They were happy to see him, so it was fine. And it was kind of one of the hooks coming into the show, following the tease on Dynamite. So I thought it was well done overall. Did not overstay its welcome. The first match in the show, Hiroshi Tanahashi, who will be in action, like I said, at Forbidden Door tonight against MJF for the AEW World Championship, and we heard from MJF afterward, taking on Swerve Strickland here. Now, I feel bad for Strickland because he's just basically a stepping stone at this point in time. We see him on Dynamite a bit more lately in just random fucking matches. Like he faced Darby Allin a few months ago, a random loss for him there, and it was a really good match, but it's like, are they pushing him? Are they not pushing him? Is it feuding with Keith Lee? Is he not feuding with Keith Lee? They had an 8-man tag a week or two ago on Dynamite. He lost. I just feel like most times when we see him on the important shows, he fucking loses, and this was no exception. That being said, it was another really good match, serving as a reminder to anyone that may have forgotten or just unfamiliar with Tanahashi from New Japan. And like for me, for example, I don't watch much New Japan at all. I fucking love Tanahashi. The guy just sweats charisma, and he's really good to boot. They had a really good match. Tanahashi wins ahead of the AEW World Title match tonight. MJF interrupting Tanahashi's celebration afterward, announcing on the big screen, our match is going on first. I want to get the hell out of Canada as quickly as possible. So our match at Forbidden Door is going on first. That was a nice hook for the pay-per-view. For anyone planning on tuning in late, well, nuh-uh. You're going to want to tune in first because we know either Omega and Ospreay or Danielson and Okada is going on last. This was never going to main event, despite the AEW World Title being on the line. Having it go on first is the next best thing. I'm in favor of that. They were in, I think, Toronto or Calgary, I think, for this show. I don't remember exactly, but we were in Canada for this show before they were in Canada again for Forbidden Door on Sunday night. Just keep that in mind for later. Andrade El Idolo taking on another member of House of Black this week, 1/3 of the AEW World Trios Champions, Brody King. Another really good match, given an ample amount of time. I wasn't a fan of the DQ finish, although I know they did that to protect King in defeat. They've protected him quite a bit in AEW, and that's great. They just haven't really pushed him on his own, so I'm not really sure what the point is, but it was a really good match. So Buddy Matthews and Brody King taking turns afterward attacking Andrade. Malachi Black never showed up. Julia Hart was at ringside. She didn't do anything, per usual. Malachi never showed up. He was on the big screen. That was all. I expected someone to come out and make the save for Andrade. That never happened. So clearly they're saving that for next week or another week, probably in the next couple of weeks. The two logical partners for him to team up with against House of Black would be Roosh and Dralistico. I mean, Dragon Lee would have been amazing, but he's now in NXT, losing to fucking Noam Dar, but whatever. And that's coming from someone who was happy to see him go to NXT, but so far his run hasn't exactly lit the world on fire, but whatever. So he has Roosh and Dralistico, does Andrade as La Faction, Ingobernable. I think Roosh just became a father. Dralistico's been in Ring of Honor doing some stuff, but it sounds like, I don't know, if he was going to team with those guys, they already had a pre-established alliance. Why would they have not come out with him in the last couple of weeks? So I'm thinking it's two other people, probably from AAA. Who those people would be, I have no fucking clue. I know he has history with Naito from New Japan, and, what's their fucking name? Los Ingobernables. Is that what their team? I know it's La Faction Ingobernable in AEW and Ring of Honor. Is it just Los Ingobernables in New Japan? I don't remember. But he has history with them. Maybe they come in. I don't think so. It's probably someone from AAA or CMLL or whatever. So just keep an eye out for that. After that, we heard from Christian Cage, who basically announced himself as the AEW TNT champion. He basically said that he and Luchasaurus are collectively the TNT champion, like they're fucking lay cool at the women's championship 13 years ago. But I thought this was great. This is kind of what I was hoping would happen after Luchasaurus won the championship last week. At this point, I used to really like Luchasaurus and Jurassic Express. I just don't give a fuck about the guy at this point. But that being said, Christian Cage, I don't know what's more entertaining. I'd rather have Christian Cage as the champion himself, but he already lost his title shot at Double or Nothing to Wardlow. I'm not sure what's more entertaining, Christian Cage actually being the champion or him pretending to be the champion vicariously through Luchasaurus. Either way, I'm on board with it if it leads to Christian getting more television time. I would rather have him in the ring more at this point in his career. He doesn't have that much time left, so I'd rather see him, fucking wrestling. This was still very entertaining. He got great heat. They were in Canada. He is obviously a Canada native, but he did a great job of getting heat, taking a shot at Cody Rhodes, saying there's no more open challenges for this championship, which turning into the biggest babyface with that line, because we've seen open challenges across every company for months and months and months now, WWE and AEW specifically. So I'm glad that Christian said no more open challenges for this championship. And like I said, taking a shot at Cody Rhodes, who kind of made the open challenge stuff popular again back in 2020 when he was TNT champion, saying that, the person who created this championship, this will not be a vanity project, and, we won't take the roads to get there. And Cody did create the TNT title essentially because he couldn't fight for the world championship, so he wasn't exactly wrong, but I thought it was a funny line. Just good stuff here from Christian, kind of their mission statement as TNT champion. I thought it was good stuff. We had Willow Nightingale, the New Japan rather. I don't know what I'm saying. I was going to say the NJPW, but why not just call it the New Japan? The New Japan Strong Women's Champion taking on Nyla Rose in a non-title match in a Women's Owen Hart Cup quarterfinal matchup. This was good. We don't see Nyla Rose all that often, but the match was fine. Willow winning as she should have. Toni Storm and Ruby attacking her afterward before Sky Blue made the save. Willow faced Toni Storm tonight at Forbidden Door for the AEW Women's World Championship. Willow, I could see going all the way. If she doesn't win this whole thing, I could see her even at least beating Athena. I don't know where they fall in the bracket, whether they're on opposite sides and that's the final, or maybe Willow just beats her in a semifinal match. I just haven't looked at the bracket yet. Willow lost to Athena back on the second episode of Ring of Honor TV earlier this year, failing to become Ring of Honor World Champion. Athena, I don't know if she needs to win the whole thing, but whoever beats her should be next in line for a shot at her championship, considering she hasn't lost in September. Willow beating her in a non-title match, I mean, they should wait until Athena loses the championship to have her get beat, but whatever. Maybe it's a DQ finish, but I wouldn't be opposed to that, just something to keep in mind. Powerhouse Hobbs having a quick squash against Jeremy Prophet. This was over pretty quickly. Hobbs winning decisively, and that was it. Did not come out with QT Marshall. Now, I'm not getting my hopes up that the partnership is over, because he was with QT Marshall backstage on the show last week. But with Johnny Mundo, John Morrison, John Hennigan, whatever the fuck they're calling him now, Johnny Television, which is awful. If he's coming in, hopefully that kind of takes away from... I mean, that's a waste of Morrison, but again, whatever. Hobbs, I would rather see them do something with him on his own, away from that garbage. He does not need it. He never needed it. So we'll see what happens going forward. None of those goofs came out with him here, so that's an encouraging sign. Quick note, though, Jeremy Prophet I actually was familiar with. He's a Canadian independent wrestler. He competed at a number of New England Championship Wrestling shows when I was going to those events back. I don't know if the company even still runs. But when I was in college and they would run shows at like a fucking bingo hall down the road from where my college was in late 2013, early 2014, he was at all those shows. He was like the top heel of the promotion. Him and Genesis, who's a friend of mine and I still talk to this day through Twitter. Jeremy Prophet was like the top heel in that promotion. He was one of the first people I ever tried to interview in person. And he was kind of like a fucking dick to me outside of the arena when I tried to get a quote from him. And I assume that was due to just him being in character. I don't know all these years later because we never had another conversation after that. Everyone else there was always super nice. Him, not so much. But nonetheless, it was funny just to see him pop up here because I remember him from 10 years ago at one of the first indie shows I went to near my school at NECW. But nonetheless, we get to our main event pretty quickly here. Bullet Club Gold, Jay White and Juice Robinson. In the Guns, taking on and beating the team of Ricky Starks and CMFTR, CM Punk, and the AEW World Tag Team Champions, FTR. Another entertaining main event, a lot like last week, except you take out Samoa Joe and you put in the Guns and Ricky Starks, and boom, there you go. Punk did not take the losing fall. I think it was Starks, actually. Everyone got their time to shine. Well-paced match. Crowd was into it. The biggest takeaway here, first of all, that Jay White won, which was key. Guy needed to win. I thought that was the right outcome there. I would say we were headed towards Jay White and Punk, but it looks like Jay White and Robinson might be challenging FTR soon for the AEW tag team titles, which is long overdue because FTR have been tag team champions for almost 3 months now and have barely defended those fucking titles, which is kind of shocking, but whatever. So I would say White and Punk is next, but it looks like based on the men's Owen Hart Cup, which we heard from all the competitors here on the show, which I thought was great, and Scorpio Sky also cut a backstage promo. He resurfaced on the show after the video package they ran for him last week. He was in person on the show, just not in the ring. Just wanted to point that out. He's not in the Owen Hart Cup, though, for the men. We heard from all the Owen Hart Cup men's competitors, including Punk and Kojima, who he's fighting tonight in a quarterfinal matchup. Punk will very likely face Samoa Joe in the next round. And hopefully Joe wins. He loses, he beats Punk, and we could get a Punk and Joe proper program in AEW or on Collision or whatever. So I don't think we're getting Punk and Jay White quite yet. They'll probably save that for down the road, or at least I hope so. And we can get Punk and Joe next, because yes, fucking please. And I don't know how I can forget to talk about this. The reaction to Punk was awesome, in the sense that it was completely polarizing. And they said that as soon as his music hit, and you can hear the very loud audible boos, it was pretty 50-50 when the music hit. I wasn't paying close attention throughout the match, but I know Brian Alvarez tweeted, it was 80-20 anti-Punk by the end. I mean, regardless of what it was, the guy gets a fucking reaction. I don't think Tony Khan gives a shit. If they're trying to position him as the top babyface on the show, is he going to get the Roman Reigns treatment every week? No, of course not. There's still enough people who like Punk where I don't think it'll be a problem. Will he have his detractors on most show that he's on? Definitely. I don't think there's ever going to be another, a lot like Chicago, where it's completely 100%, 95% pro-Punk. It will be 50-50, 60-40 most weeks. But listen, the guy gets a reaction. It's not like he's not over. And it's not like he's going to get completely booed in front of every crowd. I'd be surprised if that was the case. And honestly, I didn't say this last week, I don't think, because I didn't do a review last week of the show. But listen, honestly, the vibe that I got from that promo last week, I didn't even love it as much as most people, because I got the vibe he's going heel. And no one really said that, but he didn't come out and apologize for his actions. He kind of just said, hey, fucking deal with it. And I'm thinking, that's not exactly something a babyface would say. I'm just kind of thinking, if the end game isn't a heel turn, then I would agree that whatever they're doing with him is dumb. I'm not saying he has to turn heel next week, but if that's the end game, the long-term goal for the next couple of months is to turn him heel. Maybe that's why he shaved his head, because I kind of associate that version of Punk with heel Punk in WWE from 10 years ago. Then fucking great. I think that's great. So we'll see where they go with it. I do think that a heel turn is in the works, and he plays off of it really well, like the Hogan leg drop. He feeds into it. He doesn't give a shit. It just makes for a great atmosphere at these shows. If this is the reaction going forward and they're as rowdy for Punk here, positive or negative as they were on this show, then I don't give a shit what the reaction is. As long as they're loud for the guy, that's really all that I care about. But yeah, this was a good match, a good way to close out the show. We still don't know if the Guns are officially a part of Bullet Club Gold yet. I would assume so, but they haven't made that official yet from what I understand. But a good way to go off the show. I thought this was another really good episode of Collision. Not exactly newsworthy, but it had some final build for Forbidden Door tonight. Had some really good wrestling. Same stars showcased in Hobbs and Jay White and Punk, FTR, Christian Cage. A really good match with Tanahashi and Strickland. Another really good match with Andrade and Brody King. The women got some time with Nightingale and Nyla Rose. So if Willow's a regular on the show, no fucking complaints here. In a notable opening segment, Miro, we also heard from him, by the way, as well. He talked about renouncing his god and his hot wife and whatever. I don't know what that means exactly, but we heard from Miro, and it was a great promo. So just give him something meaningful to do, and I'll be happy. But yeah, just a really good show. And again, I don't know if I'll be reviewing the show weekly going forward. Don't get your hopes up for anyone that cares. I would like to. It depends whether I'm busy, whether I'm free, whether the show's newsworthy or not. If it turns into Rampage 2.0, then the answer is no. But if it stays relevant as it was this week and last week, and they can kind of keep this up, and it remains my favorite program to watch weekly, then I probably will break the show down weekly here on the channel every Sunday, so keep an eye out for that. Nonetheless, guys, have an awesome one. Thank you for checking out the review. I appreciate it. Might be more to come, and subscribe if so. Even if not, subscribe anyway. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.